Okay. Let me speak for a while. Bitcoin obsoletes all of the money. This is a economics article more than anything else, and for some reason, Nakamoto Institute has changed the layout and the theme of the article pieces. Yep. So let's begin. In case my audio is not clear, please somebody let me know. When it comes to Bitcoin adoption, there are generally two rules that never seem to fail. Everyone always feels late, and everyone always wishes they had bought more Bitcoin. There are exceptions to every rule, but Bitcoin has an uncanny ability to screw with the human psyche. It turns out that 21 million is a scarily small number, and it actually becomes smaller as more individuals come to understand that the fixed supply of Bitcoin is credibly enforced and that monetary networks converge on a single medium. Demand for Bitcoin is driven by the credibility of its monetary properties and the convergent nature of money, but increasing demand for Bitcoin reinforces the scarcity of Bitcoin's fixed supply. As it does, Bitcoin becomes more valuable as a monetary medium. While this becomes evident the further down the Bitcoin rabbit hole one travels, it is not uncommon for individuals on the periphery to be overwhelmed by the sheer number of cryptocurrencies. Sure, Bitcoin isn't the lead today, but there are thousands. How do you know Bitcoin is not MySpace? How can you be sure something new doesn't take over Bitcoin? Mhm. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is a economics article, and also goes on the lines of comparing Bitcoin with other cryptocurrencies. So I think we're trying to understand what makes Bitcoin distinct from any other monetary network fundamentally, and there's something to do with the fixed supply, of course, that it enables individuals to converge on one monetary medium, which is the representation through 21 million bitcoins. It may sound crazy to believe that Bitcoin will be the dominant global currency, and it likely would be if evaluating the possibility from a top down, probability weighted perspective. Today, Bitcoin is one of 1,000 plus competing digital currencies that all look on the same on the surface. Its purchasing power of 150 billion is a drop in the bucket compared to the global financial system, which supports 250 trillion of debt. Gold alone has a purchasing power of 8 trillion, 50 times the size of Bitcoin. What are the chances that an 11-year-old internet sensation rises from the ashes of the 2008 financial crisis and goes from nothing to becoming the dominant global currency? The idea sounds laughable, or at the very least, it appears to be too low of a probability to warrant consideration. However, when starting from the bottom up and developing conviction around a few foundational principles, the noise of 1,000 cryptocurrencies fades to the background. When added together, just a few foundational principles create simplicity and clarity around what once may have seemed too complex to possibly discern. If someone had to evaluate 1,000 possibilities to come to the right solution, it may not be practical or possible. But if you could eliminate triple nine of those possibilities based on one or a few starting first principles, it then becomes more practical to arrive at a coherent answer. Mhm. So, yeah, just perhaps my interpretation, but I think the understanding of Bitcoin starts to become intuitive to a point where, as complex as it is, if your foundational principles of value start to make sense to you, even when value is subjective, then Bitcoin starts to become intuitive, and there's a value standard that all of us can foundationally agree on. And as more and more of us have conviction on that monetary standard, it naturally emerges as more valuable for everybody. Yeah, so this article goes into how it allows for trade and specialization, which no other monetary medium could provide, because it's like a barter of currencies going on in the current global financial system. And what it does is that it creates this misallocation of supply and the disbalance in supply and demand, right? Because it fundamentally creates a barter economy, very um, in a very top down fashion. But yeah, Bitcoin allows that bottom up value system to emerge. There is this, yeah, let's actually walk this over. Is money a basic necessity? Yes, because it allows for economic activity to coordinate itself. Is money a collective hallucination? No. This is a common argument made by a lot of people. But money has very specific properties. It's not a collective hallucination that all of us have on something, which is a argument that a lot of people make about anything else being money, but it's fundamentally untrue. Do economic systems converge on a single form of money? Yes. This is a point that's very intuitive, but I think important to understand that it has to be a single form of money because money's purpose is to be a price mechanism that every goods and services have different values for every individual based on their preferences and unique choices. But what price system allows us to do is to evaluate the trade-offs between choosing one product over another. That could be good or service, but you can start to evaluate the cost of using those products and services at at a at a level where you have to create some value to get them. So you have a rational basis to do economic calculation, which without a price mechanism is impossible, and price mechanism itself is impossible without a single form of money because that's what allows you to scale value. And by scale here, I mean to measure value. Will the world converge on Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin more scarce than any other form of money? Yes. Is Bitcoin more easily divisible than any other form of money? Yes. Is Bitcoin more easily transferable than any other form of money? Yes. World domination. Yeah, that's where we're going. I think someone else joined. Hey, Aaron. Hi.
Hey Aaron.
I hope my audio is still clear.
Yeah, yeah. We can hear you, Shan. Well.
Mhm. Thanks. This is the roadmap to cutting out the noise and focusing on what really matters. Individuals may come to understand why Bitcoin consistently outcompetes all other currencies, and that it is not a collective hallucination, nor is it a shared belief system. Individuals adopt Bitcoin because it possesses unique properties that make it superior as a form of money relative to all other currencies. Because money is a solution to an intersubjective problem, monetary systems tend to converge on a single medium, or rather, economic systems naturally emerge from a single medium due to the function of money. The properties inherent in Bitcoin are causing the market to converge on it as a tool to communicate and measure value because it represents a step function change improvement over any other monetary medium. If anyone comes away with the fundamental view that money is a necessity and that monetary systems naturally converge, the question then centers on whether Bitcoin is optimized to fulfill the monetary function better than any of the competition. I think this particular line that I think I would love to read again is that once you understand that fundamentally money is a necessity and that monetary systems naturally converge, by which it's important to understand that all fiat currencies also naturally converge to one because otherwise it becomes a barter of all fiat currencies. So money itself has value because it allows for price mechanism and distribution of knowledge through that because you can communicate value across millions of people, which is impossible without money. So so yeah, the question then centers on whether Bitcoin is optimized to fulfill the monetary function better than any of the competition. Money is a necessity. Civilization as we know it, would not exist without money. Without money, there would be no airplanes, no cars, no iPhones, and the ability to fulfill very basic necessities would become materially impaired. Millions of people could not peacefully inhabit a single city, state, or country without the function of money. Money is the economic good that allows food to reliably show on grocery shelves, gas to be at the gas station, electricity to power homes, clean water to be abundant, etc. It is money that makes the world turn, and it would not turn in the way that most have taken for granted if not for the function of money. It is a massively underappreciated function, one that is poorly understood because it is generally not consciously considered. In the developed world, reliable money is taken as a given. So too are the basic necessities delivered through the coordination function of money. Yeah, money, I think, is this, especially in the developed world, becomes this sea of value that most people start taking for value, for granted. And that happens because it's the metaphor is that dollar is stable but stably decreasing in value. And yeah, so it allows for basic necessities to flow to you at a very at at a basis where you can make a rational economic calculation for what's the cost for getting those services and what's the value that you will have to create to pay that cost. So it allows you to empower yourself in a very rational way that you can calculate based on those decisions that you have to make to spend what value you create. So yeah, it becomes important to understand that how money is serving that purpose, and Bitcoin is solving that better than any other money. Consider, for example, a local grocery store and the range of choice that converges in a single store. The number of individual contributions and skills that are required to make that happen is mind boggling, from the coordination of the store itself to the individual packing, to the technology providers, to the logistic networks, to the transportation networks, to the payment systems, and right down to each individual item of food. Then, as a derivative, yeah, I think this was a pretty mouthful and for good reason, because I think money's purpose is to become abstracted away. Not everybody should need to verify money. It is the need because of how fiat money system works that all of us have to verify what money is and how it works. That's become the fundamental broken money system that we live in. But money itself should allow for this complex coordination of economic activity. It should not have to be something that everybody should have to fundamentally verify every detail of how it works. But yeah, this is my interpretation, but I believe this is the magic of money, that the sheer complexity of trade and value that it allows to create is um, beyond understanding of one human mind. Then, as a derivative, consider all the unique inputs that go into each item on the shelf. The grocery store is just the fulfillment side. The production of each input has its own diverse supply chain, and it is just one modern marvel. Deconstructing the inputs of a modern telecom network, energy grid, or water and waste management system is similarly complex. Each network and the participants therein rely on the others. Producers of food rely on individuals that help fulfill energy demand, telecom services, logistics, clean water, etc., among others, and vice versa. Practically all networks are connected, and it is all made possible through the coordination function of money. Everyone is able to contribute their own skills based on their personal interests and preferences, receive money in return for value delivered today, and then use that same money to acquire the specialized value created by others in the future. Yeah, I'll take a pause here. I think I've read for a few minutes. If somebody has anything to share, please feel free to interrupt me and chime in whenever you guys want to. Yep, take a quick pause and then we'll start. And it does not all happen by chance either. Some not so rigorous thinkers suggest that money is either a collective hallucination, or that it derives value from the government. In reality, money is a tool that was invented by man to satisfy a very specific market need in facilitating trade. Money helps facilitate this activity by acting as an intermediary between a series of present and future exchanges. Without any conscious control or direction, market participants evaluate various different goods and converge on the tool with the properties best suited to facilitate the very express purpose of converting present value for future value. Whereas individual consumption preferences vary from person to person and change constantly, the need for exchange is practically universal and the function is distinctly uniform. For every individual, money allows for value produced in the present to be converted into consumption in the future. The value one places on a home, a car, a food, leisure, etc., naturally changes over time and logically varies from person to person. But the need to consume and the need to communicate preferences does not change and applies to all individuals on an intersubjective basis. Mhm. Yeah, this is actually pretty dense. So if anybody has any open thoughts, also please feel to free to share. I will try my best to do justice to explain the concepts. Money exists to communicate these preferences and ultimately value, but recognizing that all value is subjective and not intrinsic. Money forms the baseline to establish an expression of value, and more importantly, relative value. Money represents the collective recognition that everyone benefits from the existence of a common language to communicate individual preferences. It aggregates and measures the preferences of all individuals within an economy at any point in time, and it would not be possible, or at the very least, extremely inefficient to communicate value if not for a common constant upon which everyone could agree. Think of money as the constant against which to measure all other goods. If it did not exist, everyone would be at a practical standstill, not able to agree on the value of anything. Yeah, I think you can fundamentally also visualize value as electrons almost, and you can create more of them by production, and you share them with everybody else, and create this value system of ethics and value, where you can literally you can create a unit of account system with value itself. And how money helps is by creating that fundamental ruler of measuring that. So every time you have to trade with another human for something which is fundamentally scarce, that somebody had to put in time, labor, and energy to produce, then you can trade that for value. And Bitcoin allows you to do that without breaking that constant scale, or that measuring yardstick. By comparing against a single constant, it then becomes more practical to discern the relative value of two other goods. I think the Austin economics definition of price itself is um, exchange ratio of value of two goods and services, and that is important because in an economy, every individual has subjective value and individual preferences and choices, but having those relative evaluation or price or exchange ratios allows you to do the calculation of what value you are creating and what value you are having to expend. By comparing against a single constant, it then becomes practical to discern the relative value of two other goods. There are billions of goods and services produced by billions of individuals, all with unique preferences. Through the convergence on a single form of money to aggregate and communicate all preferences, a price system ultimately emerges. By measuring and expressing the value of all goods in a common intermediary money, it then becomes possible to understand how much one good or resource is valued relative to any other. And this is how somebody can visualize it, that there are two goods with variable supply and demand, and how you come to some rational evaluation of them is through the price mechanism, which can be variable for their exchange. Um, but what Bitcoin allows you to do is to have one constant to measure that price exchange ratio between all goods and services. Without the use of a common currency, there would be no concept of price. And without the concept of price, it would not be possible to do any range of economic calculation. The ability to perform economic calculation allows individuals to take independent actions, relying on the information communicated through a price system to best satisfy their own needs by understanding the needs of others. In fact, it is a price system that allows supply and demand structures to form, and it is ultimately a necessity because it provides for the communication of information, without which the fulfillment of basic needs would not be possible. Imagine if nothing you consumed had a discernible price. How would you know what you needed to produce in order to obtain the goods you prefer? Then recognize that your own conception of the value you produce and the very existence of goods and services produced by others would not be available if not for some expression of price existing. It becomes circular, but money is the good that allows the underlying structures of an economy to form through the price system. While it is often extolled as the root of all evil, money may just be the greatest accidental invention ever created by man, and one that could not have been emerged by conscious control. Yep. This is an amazing read. This paragraph. I'll try my best to do justice to it. I have deliberately used the word marvel to shock the reader out of the complacency with which we often take the working of the price mechanism for granted. I'm convinced that if it were the result of deliberate human design, and if the people guided by the price changes understood that their decisions have significance far beyond their immediate aim, this mechanism would have been acclaimed as one of the greatest triumphs of the human mind. Its misfortune is the double one, that it is not the product of human design, and that the people guided by it usually do not know why they are made to do what they do. But those who clamor for conscious direction and who cannot believe that anything which has evolved without design, and even without our understanding it, should solve problems which we should not be able to solve consciously, should remember this: the problem is precisely how to extend the span of our utilization of resources beyond the span of the control of any one mind, and therefore how to dispense with the need of conscious control, and how to provide inducements which will make the individuals do the desirable things without anyone having to tell them what to do. I'll I'll try to articulate a dumbed down version of this. Is that money allows millions of people to have a trusted cooperation, that you don't have to know the person individually. You can create a mechanism where everybody is able to create value. And because money itself becomes that unit of value that you can share for the value that you create with somebody, and somebody else values, you can use money to purchase that. Then it allows for a natural cooperation to arise, which wouldn't have possible without money. We'll take another pause. I hope you guys are listening. Just if somebody has anything, please always feel free.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I was thinking when you were reading all this, and it's more of a philosophical thing. I've listened from a lot of people that, when Bitcoin will be the standard, then people will not be working to just sell, just increase consumption, because no one will be paying for that, right? Because the money is limited and it's deflationary world, so they will probably not be consuming random junk, something which is being marketed to them. So people will go back to doing what they are actually made for, or what their true goal in life is. So that is one viewpoint
Yeah.
which I have heard from a lot of people, which is corrupted from the fact that people have to make 10% more every year. So they have to sell
Yeah.
nonsense, or do something nonsense to
Yeah.
earn 10%. But the other point, when you're mentioning that Bitcoin is the scale through which value is measured, then the closest parallel that I could draw was like watch is a scale through which time is measured. And in times, like if you go back 1,000 years or 2,000 years, then people did not have the ability to measure time accurately. Now people have, right? So I was just trying to draw in as to how has that led to change in our life. Now you have pretty specific time. For example, our meeting will start at 8 p.m. So that's pretty specific, 8 p.m. IST. Earlier, that was not possible. You have trains running, you have planes running. I'm not sure in earlier times that would have been possible, because people would have just eight divisions inside a day. So
Mhm.
like having a
Yeah.
better scale makes a lot of new inventions possible, but also time has gotten very scarce. People value time a lot more than what they used to, like couple of thousand of years back. And so that draws me to this conflict, whether people will start to value everything more, like money will become the whole and soul for everyone, and people will just start putting a value to everything, like how much does this cost in chats, how much does this thing cost in chats,
Yeah.
or will people actually be more free? And uh, yeah, so that's a philosophical debate, but that's what was coming
Yeah.
into my mind when you were
Yeah.
going through this part.
Yeah. I think that's the foundational definition of money that all of us need to arrive at, because um, I think the peer-to-peer part of Bitcoin is fundamentally very important because it allows you to create a society from bottom up without having um, price controls and subsidies and any intervention of interest rates, cost of capital. So it allows you to create a fundamental value system that you can almost see it in the eyes of the person that you are having a unit of account, and you can create that society with them. And what Bitcoin allows you to do is to have that unit of account with them directly without having to go through someone else, which I think corrupts the entire value system of how we operate. But yeah, also I think the first point you made was about the um, unit of time, watch being the scale
So,
of time.
my question was around like, will it make the world go even more focused on making money? As in, because everything will have a price. Like right now, everything is measured on like 8:39 p.m. 55 second IST, right? So, will people get down to that level, as in pricing
Mhm.
everything on time, or people
Yeah.
will will become free because like excess consumption has gone
Yeah.
away from their like. I'm just trying to figure out like
Yeah.
how will it change for everyone.
Right. Right. I think I personally, and I think there's a very good reason to go with the former than the latter, that people will eventually just trade time with each other because I think it's the current structures of supply and demand have created this scarcity in basic necessities because the money is inflating away and there is misallocation of resources for so many intervention reasons that it creates a system where people are not able to fulfill their basic necessities and are having to do bullshit things in life. So I think when people are arriving at a more foundational principles of what value is, then people will naturally start to shift to do things directly with each other outside of creating goods and services, which I think is the real economy that will start to manifest on Bitcoin.
I mean, just to add to the point that Saurabh mentioned, I do believe that in a Bitcoin standard, with regards to consumption and the goods and services that we manufacture, the quality of that will increase exponentially. The reason being, I mean, we all know what are the perils of money printing, right? In 2021, the amount of money that was printed was absolutely unprecedented. At least none of us has seen that level of inflation in our entire lives, right? And what happened is that the stock market bubble went really high because there's a lot of money available, right? Capital is available for very cheap. And during that period of time, we saw a lot of companies that were manufacturing garbage goods and services. Their market, the price of their stocks went sky high, right? And companies that were literally on paper, companies that were literally on paper that weren't even functioning, they were evaluated worth billions and billions of US dollars. And when that money printing or the money printer, was put to an end, lots of companies fell on their noses. So it goes on to show that when money
Hmm.
is easily available, when money is not scarce, when you can print money out of thin air, a lot of companies that manufacture garbage goods and services, even they get priced very highly. But when money becomes scarce, then people are choosy. They pick and choose what goods and services they want to subscribe to. And in that world, only if you manufacture and provide a quality good or a quality service will you be sustainable.
That's a beautiful point. Yeah, I completely agree.
I also feel to that point that probably people will value the things that they create in a more even manner. So, for example, like one of the things that has happened with the advent of smartphones, right? Like beauty was something that people always valued, but from the when with the advent of smartphone and like attention, when people understood the value of attention, like people understand now that if you put a beautiful face around, like people innately value it, and you have mm, influencers coming up, and that was an economy which was not, I would say, that was sort of locked, right? So if unless you are in Hollywood, or unless you are in certain specific geographies, probably you even if you are good looking, or even if you are that, you will not be able to, you don't know the value of what's sold. what attention economy has done is it has brought to everyone's attention as to how important good looks are, or like having being able to draw attention is, right? So in that sense, I think right now there are a lot of people who produce amazing stuff. Probably they're not that valued. I mean, I'm just adding to what Fazal mentioned, because the money is such that it's not a reliable scale. But when we will move to Bitcoin standard, probably it will start valuing people who are actually producing amazing quality of goods and services in far end corners of the world. Suddenly they will be I mean, they will have a better bigger better audience, and people will value what they are creating in very similar way as to how attention economy has worked for. Yeah.
In a very similar way that which economy has worked.
I mean, I'm saying attention economy has worked for
Right,
people who
right.
might not be in Hollywood, in Los Angeles, or in Bombay, right? So
Hmm.
they can still sort of become
Yeah,
very, very widely popular because of the
yeah,
looks of what they bring that
yeah. I
gathers
think
attention.
yeah. I think fundamentally we're all in the pursuit of happiness and beauty more than any economically scarce good. So I think that's where Bitcoin will emerge as this pursuit of beauty, where all of us are in our own ways pursuing what we find the most beautiful thing. Okay, I'll start reading from here. But yeah, as always, just feel free to chime in whenever. Economic systems converge on a single monetary medium. Last stage Silicon Valley thinking has many people believing that hundreds, if not thousands, of currencies may exist in the future. The machines are going to do all the calculation, AI and quantum will handle it. An intellectually safe view to hold is that 95% of cryptocurrencies will probably fail, but there are some interesting projects. It is inherently difficult to know which will succeed. Much like venture capital investing, most will fail, but the ones that win will win big. At least this is what most of Silicon Valley would have you believe, because it is a defensible parallel to historical experiences investing in companies. In reality, it is a blanket hedge lacking in first principles. It is also applying a familiar formula to an entirely distinct class of problem. Yeah, I think the good example of Silicon Valley thinking is Airbnb, that it's a loss making business that's operating just because of VC debt. And this is the way of thinking that has emerged in cryptocurrencies, which fundamentally also are a distraction from the value system that Bitcoin allows us to create. While it may seem logical to form a mental framework around Bitcoin in relation to the rhyming history of technology startups, there can be no comparison whatsoever. Bitcoin is money, not a company. It would be illogical to assume competition between two monetary mediums or multiple would be in any way parallel or would follow a similar pattern to that of two companies. Companies compete in a capital formation arms race. In order to do so, they need money to coordinate economic activity. How do they get money? By using money to coordinate the production of goods and services and by selling the output for more money profit. In a sense, companies compete for the same pool of money in order to accumulate capital. Money is the tool that makes the wheel go round. It simply would not be possible to coordinate all the individual skills necessary in order to allow for the fulfillment of goods and services derived from the complexity of most modern supply chains without money. It also would not be possible if it were not for the fact that a large group of people accepted a common form of money. Yep. I think the large group of people accepting a common form of money is one thing that I think it's easy for all of us, I think, to fall for the idea that we need Bitcoin. I mean, for a lot of people, it does not matter, but Bitcoin price to be as low as possible for as long as possible. But I think that's if somebody has unmuted themselves. Yeah, Aaron, are you?
Sorry, my bad.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. Yeah. So, yeah, I was saying how a large group of people accepting a common form of money is actually better for all of them because it allows you to create that specialization that otherwise you wouldn't be able to participate in. And there might be somebody who might value something that you uniquely can produce that might not be able to engage with you because have that common value system to share value across. So I think it's something that I believe is misunderstood when somebody thinks that the less number of people adopt is better. I mean, there's a good reason to think that, but just sharing my own view. Having a single this is a Seyfuddin Namu's quote from the Bitcoin Standard. Having a single medium of exchange allows the size of the economy to grow as large as the number of people willing to use that medium of exchange. The larger the size of the economy, the larger the opportunities for gains from exchange and specialization, and perhaps more significantly, the longer and more sophisticated the structure of production can become. Yeah, I think it's important for all of us to understand production from a very etymological or metaphysical lens because a lot of times we think of production as industries, as a lot of people might think of it as that. Production is essentially all of us elevating to a value system where all of us can create more beauty and happiness. This is my summary of value, but it's of course subjective for all of us to decide for our own. But I think production is essentially just production of more value, and money allows you to create a system where that value cannot be diluted for the value that you hold. In the supply chain of production, money serves as a distinct function of a different class than any individual good or service. It is the distinction between the fulfillment of preferences, production of goods and services, and the coordination of preferences, money. The fulfillment of preferences is dependent on the coordination of preferences, and the coordination of preferences is dependent on a price system, which can only form as a derivative of mass convergence on a single monetary medium. Without a pricing system, division of labor would not exist, at least to the extent necessary to allow for the functioning of complex supply chains. This is the root level principle most miss when contemplating a world of many currencies. Any pricing system is derived from a single currency. The concept of price would not exist if not for a critical mass of individuals producing a diverse set of goods and services and communicating value of those goods and services through a common medium. In order to derive the benefit of money and price, convergence is a precursor. As a result, it may be more accurate to say that economic systems emerge from a single monetary medium rather than converge on one. Individuals converge on a single monetary medium and output is an economic system. Yeah, I think the sentence here is really profound that it's all of us, it's all individuals and their personal responsibility to converge on this single monetary medium. And I was talking about how not everybody should have to verify the details of money. This is not the purpose that money should be solving. Money should enable you to create value in the way that you are able to create value the best way. Somebody who values that, and that money should be able to facilitate that. And I think all of us individually should converge on that single monetary medium for it to facilitate trade in ways which is not possible with different monies and having a barter economy between them. So yeah, I think the single monetary medium is the biggest value proposition for Bitcoin. No, nothing before has been able to. We'll just take a quick pause here. Whereas the value of all other goods and services is a consumption, the value of money is exchange. Change is the good that any individual is purchasing and choosing to convert value. The subjective output of physical. Individual consumption preferences are unique. Function of all market participants to bridge the present to the future, whether it be for a day, week, year, or longer. In any exchange of present value, some time continuum exists until a future exchange. The point of exchange, each people must make a decision as to which monetary pair serves the function of preserving value created in the present, in the future, maybe. I think one point is that a long money system which as much currently
Your voice
possible
is
for
breaking,
any
Sharon, the way it
project
was at the start
in
of
the
the session.
future. I'm really sorry. Is it better now? I'll
Yeah,
move the
it is.
Faisal. Is it better now?
Yes, yes, it is.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope to this point the a sound money system allows us to project into the future as much as time and reality itself allows, because it allows to create a rational economic calculation which anything other than sound money will. Yeah, this is how we connect the present value creation into future, and this is where the idea of low time preference comes in. That you could almost create value in present, which might not bear fruits, but you are able to project into the future using a sound money, which otherwise would have been impossible for individuals to store across time. While an individual can choose to hold one or multiple currencies, one is definitionally going to perform that function more effectively. Will preserve future purchasing power better than the other. Everyone intuitively understands this and makes a decision based on the inherent properties of one medium relative to another. When deciding which monetary good to use, the preference of one individual is impacted by the preference of others, but each individual is making an independent evaluation discerning the relative strengths of multiple monetary goods. It is not coincidence that the market converges on a single medium because each individual is attempting to solve the same problem of future exchange, which is interdependent on the preference of others. Read the last slide. It is not coincidence that the market converges on a single medium because each individual is attempting to solve the same problem of future exchange, which is interdependent on the preference of others. Yeah, yeah. I think it's such a distraction to have this taking away value system from foundational principles of what Bitcoin allows. The ultimate goal is to such that each individual can communicate most partner evaluation subjectively. Whole point is that you can agree and this is constant did not immediately make sense, but I think the idea is that it's not constant in itself. It's a relative constant because it's merging out of individual constant. And I think that's my
You are not
understanding
audible
of
again.
what a relative constant is.
The voice is breaking.
Oh, okay. Is it better? And was it to the mic?
No, it's still breaking. Right. You're not audible, and like the issue does not seem to be occurring due to a tangible reason that you can fix on yourself. So I think the only logical outcome would be that we can. I mean, you can call it a day if you want to, because hardly 6 minutes are remaining. And
Yep, makes sense, makes sense. If I'm audible.